Hello, everyone. Welcome to Nareen's Life with MS. This is Nareen, and let's get started with Friday findings. First of all, I think it's nearly 1 a.m. Actually, it's past 1 a.m. And the reason it's past 1 a.m., I got back around midnight. But the thing was, today was a pretty busy day, so I did not have time to actually read any articles. And I have been searching for articles, actually, and it took me so long, at least 30 over 45 minutes to actually find two articles. So in between, I was almost considering starting a new series on Friday, if I can't find, you know, stories or articles to talk about. But thankfully, the gods delivered, or, if you don't, if you're, you know, if you are an atheist, then, you know, something ended up happening. The internet delivered. Um, and, we do have two very interesting stories to share. Or I have two very interesting stories to share. Now, one thing is, these still are certain developments and studies, but they definitely aren't as science focused or medicine focused in comparison to the past few weeks. So do take that knowledge, and hopefully you can find more information on it, although I will link both articles uh, to the uh, you know to the description of the story, so that you can actually read it and see if you can find more information on it, because both of these articles do sound very interesting, and there definitely doesn't and considering these both sound like they are just starting off. Both of these articles do talk about them just starting off with the discovery or the invention. Definitely there might be a lot more to share in the future. So with that said, why don't we begin? So the first story I have, and this one is very interesting because the way the article title is, I just imagined it would be more suitable for um, the female audiences of or the female patients of MS, but turns out it's pretty much the other way around, or technically it is there for everyone, and that is that if as a child you were best breastfed for a longer period of time, there has been a certain correlation that has been discovered where you might actually face less less disability, um, in a long term situation, in a long term of the disease. Now, what does that mean? That just definitely means that, when all of us were children, right, all MS patients were children and probably were not, uh, you know, did not have any signs of MS. And this might even have been a point where, a lot of us or none of us were maybe even exposed to, the Epstein-Barr virus or anything else. Obviously there was, we were either being breastfed or there was formula available, depending on whichever circumstances we were facing. Now, supposedly, the study that was conducted showed that in showed that MS patients that were breastfed for 6 months or longer actually had less disability later in life from MS than people who, um, were breastfed for a shorter amount of time. And these researchers also concluded that, every 2 months there was a reduction, an overall reduction in, the disability that, a patient might, experience. Now, um, one of the things to consider about this research when it was conducted was that the sample size was very small. So there is a chance that, you know um, the fact that some MS patients were breastfed as children, as infants, and some were, some ended up consuming formula, does not, does need further studying, does need further research, definitely needs a lot more backing, and not only that, but definitely needs a little more support. But at the end of the day, the one thing that this research does show is that, breast milk can actually have such properties as, defending against autoimmune diseases, and in such a way that, um, in such a way that we that with a longer term for, breastfeeding, might actually result in, the child, if they do end up, you know having MS in the future, might actually showcase less, um, might showcase less, uh, disability. And, when I did read this story, it definitely made me think of, Harry Potter, where, Lily Potter does put, her protection spell on Harry so that he was protected against Voldemort and all of that. Of course, not talking anything else about that, but, just the fact that, definitely reading this article made me think about, that exact thing about, like, this whole idea of protection, against, a disease, that we have. So, yes, what are your thoughts on this? Because this is definitely going to be one that, might have a lot of opinions flying about. There might be a lot of people saying that, this may happen, this may not happen. I mean, a lot of times we ourselves don't know really how far, right, how far this study can even go. I mean, making sure that we have this much information, especially for such a long amount of time, because, you definitely need to know when, you definitely need to know of patients, then you need to know about their history, especially as an infant, which means that, a lot of people do come into play. So as a result, this study will definitely be, a very difficult study to actually conduct. But, there might be some things that, do end up, getting discussed, or do end up, um, just creating new pathways, or new connections to other areas, other research, because this was a study that was conducted. So that covers the first story that I have, and I hope, you do have something to share. So please do share it so that we can get a conversation started. And with that said, why don't we start off with the second story? So the second story, now this one is also very interesting. So as you know, I have used AI, especially in the development of this channel. Uh, a lot of all of the images that have been created have been done using AI. I have used AI to, think up of new series, think up of, how to go about doing all of these series. So here is another way that AI has been used, and that is in diagnosing multiple sclerosis. Now, how does this happen? Well, first of all, one of the best things about this new way of diagnosing MS has been done through a non invasive, non impacting procedure, because all it involves is a highly technical AI tool that actually measures your voice. Now, how does it measure your voice? You just have to maybe speak into a microphone. The AI will, analyze your voice and then actually be able to tell you whether you might have MS or not, right? And one thing that I do want to state is the the few things that do happen as a result of a patient having MS is that we end up slurring our words. There are times where our voices sound a little more hoarse, um, and that is just part of this disease impacting our body. So over here there has been an AI tool conducted that can actually analyze your voice. Now there are some great things about it. There are also a lot of questions that do arise as a result of it, because I definitely feel that there are other you know medical conditions out there, other invisible diseases that might actually showcase the same symptoms that do happen with the voice. Slurring while you speak is not something that is not something that it only happens with MS, as far as I can maybe tell. And I can say the same thing for a hoarse voice, right? There might be other reasons for this exact thing to happen. So really, this being an identification factor, I definitely hope that there is further research into this, that there is more things that are done with this research, so that there definitely does happen to be an AI tool that is non-invasive, and just through something as simple as speaking into it will allow for this AI tool to diagnose whether you have MS or you have the potential of getting MS later in life, because that would be great. But yes, I do want to know what your thoughts are on this invention as well, because I definitely find it very interesting that there might be a time in the future where people speaking into a microphone might be able to know, or might be able to find out um, that they have MS or any other autoimmune condition for that reason. So yes, please do share your thoughts on this. Please do share your insights, or your opinions on this, so that we can actually go and have a conversation about it. Because this second story as well is pretty interesting, and I definitely think that, and I definitely hope that there is going to be further research into this. There's going to be further development into this, so that not only are people able to get the correct diagnosis as a result of speaking, um, but also not have to go through the first round of medical tests that end up happening, everything from a lumbar puncture to an MRI to other neurological tests that do happen in the eye, in various parts of the body. And if you definitely were diagnosed with MS around the time I was, which was 2009, there were certain tests that I did end up finding quite uncomfortable. So, I would be very happy in knowing that future patients might have a much easier way of getting that diagnosis. So, yes, please do share your thoughts, your opinions, your insights, maybe even your experiences, right? How often do you slur if you're an MS patient? How often does your voice turn hoarse while you are speaking? And I know as I say that, my voice is turning hoarse. So before I end off this segment, I do want your opinions so that we can get this conversation started. So we had two very interesting stories, two very interesting studies, actually one study and then one invention that have been sort of the two articles that I talked about in this video. So really, I do want to know what your thoughts are on either of the articles. What are your insights on either of the articles? I mean, both of these articles are a little different from what I might have shared in in the past few weeks, especially considering that the last couple of weeks have definitely been very information heavy, especially on the scientific, the pharmaceutical side. But then over here we're looking at certain things that may even prove to be helpful in their own ways. So yes, please do share your thoughts. Please do share what you're thinking about when you're listening or reading these stories, or even hearing my voice. And yes, please do share your insights on and thoughts and opinions on you know what could happen if more research is conducted on either of these two articles, and there is further progress on both of these different articles that I shared, and there actually is much better proof in the future that this is actually happening. So, yes, please do share your thoughts on this. Let's get the conversation started. And considering it's Friday, I do want to wish you a happy weekend. I do hope your weekend goes very, very well. I know that my weekend is going to be a little busy. Um, I definitely do have certain things to do this weekend, but I am very excited that the weekend is here so that I can definitely get into bed and go to sleep. So, with that said, I do hope you also had a great week and are ready for the weekend. And with that, good night, sweet dreams, and I'll talk to you tomorrow. Bye.